my name is Audrey Scritchfield.
Hi, my name is Isles Scritchfield.
Will you help a child in need?
Hey listeners, my girls and I would like to invite you to join us this holiday season in supporting a nonprofit we care very deeply about. It's called the Homeless Children's Playtime Project. If you visit wishlist.playtimeproject.org, you'll see an Amazon wish list for gifts that are requested to help a DC homeless child have a happier holiday. Again, it's wishlist.playtimeproject.org. Happy holidays! If you think it's time to take a hammer to your bathroom scale and rip up the diet rulebook, well, welcome to Body Kindness. Hi, everyone. It's Rebecca Scritchfield, author of Body Kindness and host for this podcast. I'm a health at every size dietitian, a certified exercise physiologist, a former chronic dieter, and mom to 2 girls. Join me as I talk to guests about what it means to be good to ourselves and create a better life where well-being matters, not weight. Through these conversations, we'll reveal the challenging and surprising ways our culture keeps us searching for our worth in our appearance. So let's create a new view of health that's inclusive and built on compassion and respect for all bodies. Let's shake things up and let's change the game. Hey, Bernie, what's going on?
Becca, good things, good things. Happy holidays to everybody. Gosh, so much to talk about today.
Yeah. So for folks who are tuning in kind of like real time as soon as the episode drops, we're right around that Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, that sort of lovely, hopefully relaxing lull of work and enjoying family and cookies and food and all those fun things that give you comfy spiral ups. And hopefully some are enjoying Body Kindness on audiobook.
Yeah. Guys, if you, for some reason, haven't picked up Body Kindness and read it cover to cover, no big deal. It is coming to you straight from Rebecca's mouth on audio. So just as a big fan myself, I definitely encourage you to pick it up. This definitely allows you to move your body and cook those yummy, delicious holiday meals, all while listening to Body Kindness.
Yes. You could play it in your house, like ask Alexa to play it.
Yes. How fun is that?
For all your family instead of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas.
Oh, yeah, definitely. New holiday tradition. But in all seriousness, I know that I really do take in a lot more information. I take it in better. Sometimes when I do read, I tend to fall asleep, which isn't a bad thing. And that's all novels, Rebecca, just so you know. I want to be very clear. But I am huge when it comes to listening. So I definitely will be picking it up. You are a close friend of mine, so I'm just super excited for you in general. But I am also interested in how to take it in the way that you're presenting it as the author, which I think is always really fun to see what you choose to emphasize, even in tone and pitch. I'm just really into that kind of stuff when I listen to books. So I can't wait to hear Body Kindness on audio.
I'm excited to listen to it too. So I actually have not gotten a chance to listen to it beforehand. And hindsight's 2020, but I probably should have asked, hey, can I get a chance to listen and approve or suggest edits? And my guess is there's a real reason why they would have probably said no anyway, because I would be picky.
Yes.
To let the pros do their job.
No, absolutely. And knowing you, Rebecca, you do your best to always put out the best. And I do think it's a good thing that they didn't. But at the same time, what that allowed was for your true emotions about what you're reading in the content and how you wrote it and how you wanted it to be received probably came through. So that being said, again, I just would like to encourage all our podcast listeners to consider going out, picking up the audiobook. I think it would be a great tool to complement your hardcover. So I know I'll be picking it up.
Cool. Well, one quick thing. I definitely think that the print book is so beautiful to have and hold, and the visuals are really, really
Absolutely
helpful. So, any format that works for you works for me too, by all means. But I do want to let readers know that it is unabridged. So I did read through the infographics. I read every single spiral up, put it in the best place in the recording where I thought it would fit. So you could just listen to the audiobook at your pace, kind of dip into the sections that you find the most meaningful, listen to that like while you're doing other things, right? So you can multitask where you might listen while you're on your commute or listen while you're doing dishes or laundry, as long as your brain can focus on one thing, right? So focus on the content and then do something else that you feel you can do pretty mindlessly, or even going out on a walk. Some people have headphones that are waterproof, so you can like swim and listen to body kind of stuff. Would be fun.
Nice.
Does that, but yeah, but feel free, like you can listen and then a lot of people say, "Oh, I didn't do any of the spiral ups," and they've read it several times, and that's great. You'll do the work when you're ready, but I'm telling you that the reflective spiral up, it's kind of like two books in one. Like the spiral ups are like the journaling piece, and that's where you set meaningful goals and can really move more forward into taking action. So it's all in the audiobook, and you can, you'll probably want to have your own notebook if you don't also get the print copy, so that you can hear me read the spiral up and you could write it down. But personally, with the value of the print copy, and if you want it signed and you're in the US, I can do that for you. That URL is bodykindnessbook.com/order. And you can order a print copy, have that signed and shipped. And then that way you can use that as like your reflective journal. Plus you'll have the visuals for the infographics that you could either keep in the book and mark them, or you can even rip them out and kind of put them together as like visuals that you want to have around your house somewhere. But then, the audiobook, I just think I prefer to consume books by audiobook, even ones that I want hard copies of. I'll kind of like, I'm a bother, I guess, where it's like I want both,
Yes.
because I like to hold the book in my hand, and yet I know I'm going to get through a book faster through audio. So I'm thrilled to be able to offer it. And one other thing that I wanted to let folks know about is that if you wanted to get on a free call with me in the new year, depending on when you're listening to this, there'll be a couple of opportunities. So the best way to know to find out the most recent opportunity to get on a free call with me with the audiobook purchase, it's bodykindnessbook.com/pre-sale. So even if the book is out, still go to that link, because that will be a page where I list if there's any opportunity to just submit your proof of purchase, and then you'll get an invitation to how you can get on a call with me. It's really, we're going to celebrate like a joyful life and celebrate, never dieting again, but also trying how we can make body kindness work for ourselves and in our lives at a pace that we can manage.
No, absolutely. And what's really great about that too is it allows our listeners here of the podcast and followers of you, both in book and now on audio, to ask some questions specific to them and their situation. And I know that we allow for that here on our podcast. However, there is a small delay when it comes to getting those questions answered to you and when we record again. So super excited today because we do have some listeners that are going to be with us asking questions. We have our very first one of the day, and that is Jessica. Yay! Thank you so much for coming on. We're excited to have you here. Tell us a little about yourself, Jessica.
Well, my name is Jessica. I am 34. I live in the DC metro area. I'm a married mom of two, and I kind of have been playing around with the whole idea of body positivity and intuitive eating and health at every size and all that kind of stuff for like 4 or 5 years, but really only just within the last 3 or 4 months kind of like really bought in, for lack of a better term, and just sort of like dove headfirst into all of it. And it's really been a great experience for me so far.
So, something interesting, just because I feel like I can relate when you said, for the past 4 or 5 years, you were kind of playing around with it and then you dove head first in. Just really quickly, just out of interest to me, when you said you were kind of playing around with it, what thoughts were going through your head when you just were kind of visiting it and then leaving?
So I would say, first of all, I never really like struggled with my weight or anything until after I had my second child, which at this point has been like 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so after he was born, I was the heaviest I'd ever been, and just got like kind of real crazy about diet and exercise. And after about a year and a half of like just literally counting every single bit of morsel of food that went into my mouth every day, and, every sip of, anything that wasn't water and all that kind of, I got really frustrated and was like, I just don't, am I really going to live my life like this? And so I had I don't even remember how I came across, but I came across, I think it was through Tumblr, through like some of the body positive movement stuff. And I was like, oh, well, this is great. And so I would stop dieting and I would kind of fall off the exercise bandwagon, as it were. And then, I'd gain like 15 or 20 pounds, and then I'd flip out and go, oh, no, this is stupid. This isn't going to work. Like, I have to go back to the diet and exercise. I just have to go back. And so, and then again, after 6, 7, 8 months, I'd get frustrated again and say, why am I doing this? Why am I like obsessing and wasting all my time and energy on this? Like, when I could just be living my life. And so that kind of was my flip flop over the last several years. And then I guess, it's something about like being in my mid 30s. I've just really gotten to this place of like, I don't care what anyone else thinks anymore. Like, I'm ready to just like live for me, and, it's like, I've been married for 10 years. My husband's great. And it's like, I decided, like, look, my husband's in love with me. I'm in love with my husband. Like, who am I trying to impress? It's not like I'm in the dating pool or anything like that anymore. And like, why do I feel this need and this pressure to like have the body I had at 17? I'm not 17. I'm 34. I have 2 children. I work full time. Like, I have a very busy life, and it's very silly to think that I could somehow like push my body into this mold that for some reason I have in my head as, perfection. And so I don't, there was no like single catalyst that really made it click for me. It just all of a sudden kind of all came together, and I, just don't give a shit anymore.
I have so many things I'm going to say. First of all, this is going to be so helpful for listeners because they're going to see themselves in this experience so much. So first, the not giving a crap. I feel like I have to start there. So you're a little bit ahead of me, but I can totally relate to that. It was like I blew out my candles on my 40th birthday. I was like, wait, what? I don't give a crap anymore. It was like brilliant. I just loved it. It was so freeing. And really from that sense of like how we perform for others, like that's what I didn't care about anymore. And you said something like, where you talked about like, for some reason, this vision I had in my head, and just to help listeners make sense of that. It is so important that as we all come into body kindness in our own way, and we have to take it at our own pace, right? But it is so important to realize that those thoughts that come into our head about what it means to be healthy and what it means to be attractive, what it means to be worthy, all those things, it is a cultural construct that's been around since before any of us have been born, right? The thinness equals, the worthiness type of a thing. And, like maybe what is sexy and what is acceptable, like changes over time, right? But it's the fact that it's a cultural pressure that's just decided and it's put into our heads, right? Because I think a lot of times that we will often say, what's wrong with me? Why am I like this? And it's more, yes, you're curious, but it's sort of in a self-blame and shame type of a role. And in the end, what we know to be true is that from the age of about 1, we are so perceptive of our surroundings and what we see, what we hear, what is said to us, even if not about us, we absorb. And that becomes the voice of who we are. So all throughout the book where I talk about your voices and Miss Perfectionist and inner critic and tantrum toddler and the rebel, like those are all different parts of us that in some way are trying to look out for us, but they all kind of never quite get it. And it's our inner caregiver who actually is compassionate, non-judgmental, and truly is flexible and wants us to have a healthy well-being and let our bodies be and just take up the space they need to take up while we're interested in movement and eating and like these things that can be personally meaningful without being prescriptive and perfect, and that's hopefully the goal that people get to, right, in learning how to practice it. Is just that this flexibility, and ultimately dropping the weapons in the tug of war.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another big kind of piece of it for me this time around too, about how it all kind of came together and clicked for me, was that it occurred to me for the first time that I can curate my social media. Like I can choose what Instagram accounts I'm going to follow and what podcasts and bloggers and that kind of stuff I'm going to follow on like Facebook and other social media outlets. And so I originally kind of just stumbled across Dietitians Unplugged, and through that, just like found all these other podcasts and bloggers and Instagram folks and, people that are part of the, health at every size nutrition community and, all of that. And so through that, within like a couple of weeks, I was able to find all these awesome people to start following on social media and seeing pictures of Lindy West and Virgie Tovar and like these awesome women on my Instagram all day long, every day, like just living their lives regardless of what their bodies look like, and just being happy and being powerful was huge for me. Like it's like, I, for so long was just following all this, Fitspo basically, like the new skinny is strong and all that kind of stuff. And curating my social media was just like a huge, huge change for me. And through, these powerful women that are part of the whole body positive and body kindness kind of movement, like really tuning into my own version of feminism. And I think that was a real big connection for me too. I think without kind of deciding to really embrace feminism, I'm not sure that I ever could have really truly embraced body positivity and body kindness.
I'm going to jump in really quick. What I really love is the fact that you brought up something about curating your own social media. And I think that we forget we have that power, the way that we take in what's being out there. And, representation, especially, of larger bodies matters. It's significant. Yeah. Do you think that, like the health at every size has helped? It's kind of seeing people out there living their life. Do you think that it's helped kind of remove some of those stigmas or that fat phobia or reduce body shaming? It sounds like it has for you. Do you believe that that's what's happening now?
Absolutely. 100%. It's, it's like I even see myself differently, when I look in the mirror or catch my reflection in a window or something like that. It's totally changed my perception of me. And I
love it.
The way, like, I used to constantly have to like remind myself, like, comparison is the thief of joy, that Roosevelt quote. And I just don't compare myself really anymore. And every once in a while, when I catch myself doing it, I have to kind of ask myself, like, okay, what is it about this person over here that's making you feel less than? Like, you don't know anything about that woman walking down the street. What makes her better than you? And yeah, it's been like a whole new world has been open to me. Like, and yes, being able to see other types of bodies, exposing myself to that every day. One of my favorite fashion Instagrams is Glitter and Lasers. and I apologize, like I cannot remember her actual name, but a plus size model, and not a plus size model like she's a size 14, but she's a big, beautiful, powerful woman, and like wears just these amazing, loud, bright, awesome clothing. And it's like, I look at her and I think like, gosh, she's so beautiful. And I've also started doing things like when I see people out and about, like in my work building or while I'm grocery shopping, that are kind of outside of the quote unquote American beauty ideal, shape and size or whatever. But like, I think that their outfit looks really great or their makeup is really beautiful. I go out of my way and I say, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I love your dress. Like you look amazing. Like, and it's so amazing to see the response, like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I don't know. It made me like, I can just see the beauty in other people so much more now. And instead of just having such a narrow vision of like what it means to be beautiful or sexy or, that kind of stuff.
Let me ask you a question about that, because I think there are moments of discomfort, right? When you start to become more size inclusive, right? And you start, because you can hear people on podcasts or in books or wherever, right? Talk about you can't tell anything about a person's health by looking at them.
Right.
And also health is not a moral obligation, right? And these are important truths to share. But then it's like, because of the cultural conditioning, right? It's like we hear that and we think that, and we might be exposed to an image and then feel discomfort, like, well, I don't, almost like fear, like, I don't know if I should be more accepting of diverse bodies. And those who have thin privilege actually have a lot more privilege to be able to even think or consider that. But I know that that can be a real sticking point. I've had clients tell me like they're trying to do that personal work and kind of overcoming their own belief system. And I just wondered if you'd be willing to share just literally the truth. Like, was it super easy just to be like, woohoo, size diversity, love it? Or like did you have to kind of like work at it and face that you had like in like stigma and beliefs about people that were mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were, like, as I said, like, because I've kind of been dabbling in the whole, body positive, health at every size sort of thing for a few years now, there were times that I'd be like, well, I would kind of like attempt to start curating my social media, like I was talking about before. But then it would be like, yeah, but like, that girl's really fat. Like, and I don't know that I could, ever be comfortable being that big, and so, yeah, I mean, there was a lot that I kind of had to confront on that and assumptions of, saying to myself, like, okay, well, but she couldn't possibly really be healthy. Like, and it's really like a constant, fighting your own inner monologue and kind of going like, well, that's ridiculous. Like, you don't know anything about that person. You don't, you haven't seen that person's, blood work. You don't know what their cholesterol is or, if risk for diabetes or anything like that. And, the realization that the stigma and the stress that comes from the stigma and constantly worrying about, what you're eating, what your body looks like, how much you're exercising, all that kind of stuff is actually more unhealthy than just like, being, I hate the term overweight, but, being larger than what the BMI chart says you should be, which, we all know that BMI is total BS anyway. But yeah, it definitely, it took time. Like, and I think I was truly trying to do these things over the course of the last, 4 years ish. And also, on a personal note, like I got a new therapist a couple of years ago, and it was like the first therapist I had that I like really, really clicked with and started connecting with and talking about, my issues with food and exercise and body image and all that. And so that kind of helped me see that, this is disordered behavior. Like doing these sorts of things and putting this kind of pressure on yourself and comparing yourself and
So
telling other
Jessica,
people. Yeah.
it seems like you've done just like a tremendous amount of work here. And, at the beginning of our conversation with you, it didn't start off that way, and you've come a long way. And I really want to applaud you for that, especially the way that, you're talking about curating your social media and really working to not only accept your body, but accept other bodies that are different from yours. What type of advice might you give someone who's starting off on their body kindness journey, or who maybe is struggling to accept themselves? Because it sounds like that's something that this has all been part of your journey. So right now I'm giving you the microphone and asking you to give that starting off you some advice.
Oh gosh. That's really hard. I guess the first thing I would say is just start educating yourself. Read and listen to everything that you can get your hands on. Let yourself be uncomfortable. Like I kind of said before, kind of embracing feminism and learning more about what modern feminism really is was huge for me. And obviously that might not be as applicable to, like men who are listeners and men who are just starting on their kind of body kindness and body positivity journurney. But then again, it might actually.
I think it does, because all men can be feminists and also understand the cultural pressures that are, they say a certain thing about women, and men have their own pressure, right? It's just different, right? Like you have to be tough and super muscular.
Yeah. And not just that, if you think about it in terms of curating social media, being a man, I don't see too many round, fat men in places or in poses of acceptance and of power and of strength. There is that typical body of a alpha male that is projected. And if you do see a larger guy, it's either in a funny role or in a role that's being picked on or in a role that's always having to overcome something. So I definitely feel as though it speaks to a lot more men out there than maybe even we realize. And, I wanted to just thank you so much for sharing your perspective on that as well.
Any other thoughts or advice and that you might have for just, so I heard educate yourself. I think that's awesome, right? Listen, right? Try, like just kind of like start somewhere. Just anything else that you could think of that could be helpful?
The social media curation was huge for me, just exposing yourself on a regular basis to other body types, all shapes and sizes and colors and gender and also I think too, just sort of tuning into yourself a little bit about what makes you feel good and what makes you feel bad. I mean, I just don't know anyone who, is just like counting every single calorie that they're taking in and putting out, that like is really like, oh, I love this about my life. And I used to think that, like, oh, I love health and fitness. Like, I love it. I'm going to get my personal training certification. I'm going to start like my own training business. And it was like, except that no. And it was also really, I think for a lot of people, it's a way to, if you're feeling like your life is out of control, it's a way to like think that you're controlling your life.
Right.
And you're not. Like, you're not. So, yeah, I think you just gotta kind of tune into yourself a little bit and really listen. And I'm also a big proponent of therapy. I think that everyone can benefit from therapy. And even if you just go for 6 months and kind of learn some cognitive behavioral skills, like that was a huge, huge piece for me.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And there are some great health at every size and form therapists in the DC area. I'm so glad we're in the same area.
Yeah.
But nationally, internationally, if you're looking for somebody and you can't find anyone, just listeners, you can always shoot us an email you can email me, Rebecca@bodykindnessbook.com, and I'd be happy to try to find a match. But I wholeheartedly, I think it was brilliant about your experiences is it was when you were talking with the therapist, you were able to learn more and more about how what you were doing in the name of health was actually very disordered. There's a big overlap of what we call as healthy and good for us that actually is disordered because it gets in the way of what it means to have a good life, a better life, and a more meaningful life. And, even when you mentioned in the beginning about like you get super restrictive, and then when you're like, I can't do that anymore, you let go of it. And you had also noticed that there was a weight gain after that restriction. Well, restriction actually, which I'm sure you're aware from your own experience, but right, for other listeners who are just like, ooh, but then they almost kind of fear they want to do anything if they know for sure they're going to gain weight, right? Like it's more about the context of if you are weight suppressed, and some people can restrict and not really be that weight suppressed because their body is somehow good at like fighting off all the starvation things. But
Right.
like if you are damaging your body from over exercise, if you're malnourished because you're really not getting enough energy in for the exercise you're doing, you're weight suppressed at all, that it's really not weight gain as much as it is restoration. And it's also very normal. And Bernie, I know this was your experience too, right? But you were so restricted from Biggest Loser stuff that when you're finally like, I can't do this anymore, like you flat out stopped, like no exercise,
Everything, like
through the
just
salads, right?
dead in my tracks, just stopped. And I definitely live this, and that's why, Jessica, I can relate so much. Is my body really did restore what it had been put through, and
Yeah.
it was incredible to see what happened.
And so it's like for listeners who feel that I just can't, I don't even want to talk about even walking as a form of self-care right now because I've been over exercising. That actually is body kindness then, to just say, I need a break and take a break. You are the expert, so you will come back in when it is more meaningful to you. And
that may take a while. Can I just chime in and say that? Like it took a while for me to finally say, okay, I am ready to look at this through a different lens. I'm ready to pick this back up. I'm talking like a couple years for me. And I just think it's important to share that because, I think that, there's a lot of negative self-talk that happens as a result of maybe that restoration that you're not understanding and, what you put your body through. And I just wanted to intervene and put that in there.
Yeah, I think for me personally, the food piece of it actually came a lot easier to me somehow. But the exercise piece is what I still really struggle with. Like anytime that I miss a workout for whatever reason, life happens. Like sometimes you can't get the workout in. Like and I love exercising. I lift weights like, a few times a week. I walk my dog every day, like that kind of stuff. I do that stuff because I like it because it makes my body and my brain feel good. And, I am constantly working on my inner dialogue regarding exercise, kind of going like, okay, well, it was pouring down rain and freezing cold all day today. You didn't get the walk in. You're not a bad person because you didn't get the walk in. Like, it's okay. And that's the piece that I still kind of struggle with sometimes. And so I actually created like my own little like inspirational meme to use as my phone wallpaper that said, you have permission to skip your workout. And so
Nice.
every time I would unlock my phone, I have an iPhone. So like every time like I pulled up the lock screen, there it was in black and white. You have permission to skip your workout. And that was great for me. It was a great tool for me. So just kind of like little stuff like that has been.
And Jessica, I just wanted to again thank you for really coming on. And I think that your story really speaks to a lot of our listeners. I know it spoke to me. So thank you so very much, Jessica. And yeah, Beck, anything else?
No, I just think that a lot of listeners are really going to find benefit in hearing that example. Yeah. I mean, I guess just to close that other part is that, when some people they need a complete break and a real long pause. Sometimes others are like, oh, how you said the food part was easier. It's like, you know what, how about I listen to my body? How about I focus on my preferences? And so it's, like there's not a rule book in order to practice body kindness. You have to never touch, I don't know, broccoli, like, again, it's like, it's what does it mean to you? Like, you might be so sick of chicken and broccoli that you don't want that. And so you've got to find kind of a gentle and meaningful way for you to focus on a healthy eating pattern as opposed to individual foods are healthy and things like that. So I think
Right.
for the benefit of listeners to know that you get to decide how you want to run away from diets, is it looks different for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Jessica, thank you so much for sharing. We appreciate it and wish you the very best moving forward.
Thank you guys so much. It was so wonderful speaking with you.
Bye.
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 Hi, everybody. We have Deja with us, who is going to talk with us a little bit about her experience with body kindness, how it's changed in general, her thinking towards her body and exercise and food. Deja, thank you so much for coming on. So can you share with us a little bit about how you came across body kindness, how you were introduced to it, where you first heard about it?
On Instagram. And that was my initial introduction to it. I don't recall the dietitian's name, but I saw it and she was, of course, praising the book. And I said, oh, I wonder if this is like some new diet thing that I could try. Because always in search of the next best thing. And so I went to my Google Play and downloaded the sample, and I immediately just was blown away, completely blown away with what I was reading. And the irony of it was maybe just 2 or 3 days prior, I had signed up for Weight Watchers for the billionth time. And I, after reading the sample, the next day I canceled my Weight Watchers subscription
Right on.
and just dove in to body kindness with everything that I had because I didn't realize that I was searching for something different until I found body kindness.
That's so cool. Thank you so much. That means the world to me. The whole thing, whether it's other dietitians saying, yeah, this is great, to like,
Yeah.
screw you, Weight Watchers. I
Yeah.
definitely love those. You know what? I would love to hear about, I feel like when people are at the very beginning, they listen to, where somebody is now, and it feels so far off for them.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, it was just easier for this other person. It's not going to work for me. So if you wouldn't mind talking at all about struggles that you had, like kind of being present in diet culture, like, Weight Watchers, you have at least had some type of weight concern, like how did that get in the way of your life? And when you were trying body kindness, I'd love to know kind of like what was that it's not just a cakewalk, right? Like easy peasy. You read the book and all of a
Right.
sudden your life is
Right.
transformed.
No, it was not easy at all. I have always had some body image issues, more so than health concerns. And so I've always been a very tall person, a larger body person. And so just changing my mindset of my body needed to be smaller. And so that's still something that I struggle with. However, body kindness has definitely made that transition that so much easier because now I can say, well, it's okay that my body is not wrong. My body is not bad. So that's something that I definitely still kind of struggle with. The fitness aspect of it, I was actually just rereading the fitness chapter not too long ago just to reframe my thinking about it because I was always kind of the no pain, no gain type of person. And so it's like it needs to hurt or it's not effective. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. And so just changing my mindset around all of that has been tremendous. And it has been a struggle because sometimes if I just take a walk, it's like this isn't enough. Do I need to go longer? And it's like, no, this is what my body needs right now. It's okay for me to stop after a half an hour. I don't have to push for 45 minutes or an hour for it to be effective.
Deja, that to me was, first of all, congratulations on that step, because for me that was a big moment in my journey, to be able to just be kinder to myself, especially when it came to moving my body. My experience, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, I was on a show and I was made to encouraged, highly pushed to move my body at a very extreme pace, one that wasn't necessarily sustainable. So after I was unable to do that anymore, I felt like a walk was, like you said, just not enough, and it led to me not finding pleasure in any kind of movement. And I remember when I was able to just finally tell myself, you know what, no, this is enough. And then from there, my next step for me was enjoying that walk, instead of even thinking to myself, gosh, this isn't enough. As I did it, I was
Right.
able to, and I don't know where you're at, I'm just sharing my journey. I was able to finally tell myself on that walk, man, I love this walk. And that was a really big thing for me. So I just want to congratulate you on that, Deja. That's awesome. And I'm so happy that I have you, and I feel connected as an ally when it comes to just people who are out there really striving to be kinder to themselves and include positive self-talk into their life, because I know that I was inundated for a long time with a lot of negative thoughts and ideas. Can you tell us a little bit just about your experience with food? I see here in the notes that it wasn't just exercise. You're also incorporating body kindness into your diet as well.
Yes, absolutely. So I was a chronic Weight Watcher, as I mentioned before. I was in and out of Weight Watchers for a long time, and I hate to bash the program, but it was that was definitely it really hurt my relationship with food. I remember for some of the times that I was in it, I was literally afraid to eat anything else. I pretty much ate the same thing every day in and day out for a year. Just I was just too afraid to deviate from my points and what I knew was safe for me to eat. And so coming
Oh, I
yeah.
I could I could relate. No, I mean, when I say that, it really is just because I hear you, and
Yeah.
I'm just basing it off your last name. It sounds like you may be Latin, or
I am not. My husband is.
oh,
Yes.
okay, because there's a lot of great food out there. Period,
Yes, there
all
is.
cultures, all backgrounds, and to think that you were shunning that saddens me, because I did the same thing, and I remember revisiting it and thinking to myself, gosh, what was I thinking? What was I doing?
Right.
Deja, I truly love that you're sharing your experience with body kindness with our listeners, because I know that there's quite a few of our listeners out there that are, maybe have just signed up for that program that promises this,
Right.
this, and that, but
Right.
ultimately is just going to be restrictive and kind of contribute to negative self-talk. I just, again, Rebecca, I feel so close to Deja, because I feel like what you're sharing
Oh,
is, I really do, because a lot of what you're sharing, looking for the next greatest thing, not necessarily feeling comfortable in your body. You had shared that you're taller.
yeah.
I'm shorter, so I'm on the opposite spectrum. But I also remember thinking to myself, oh gosh, I'm shorter than this. If I was only taller, it's
Right.
always, this grass is always greener. But it sounds like you just sound like you're being nicer to
I
yourself.
you know
you
what?
know?
I am, even with the food thing, there were sometimes my daughter's 7, and she would say, "Oh, can we go out for ice cream?" And, so I didn't seem weird or crazy to my daughter. I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, sure." But in my mind, I was thinking, "Okay, how am I going to navigate this? What can I get at the ice cream?" Because not wanting to I still wanted to enjoy the moment with my daughter, but in my mind, I was thinking, okay, how many more workouts am I going to have to do? What can I cut out? And so for me, it wasn't something that necessarily that people could see. It was the mental aspect of me, just digging into myself and berating myself on the inside for
Mhm,
anything that I
mhm.
deviated from that I deemed as safe.
I'm telling you, I can relate. I mean, things started changing for me actually when I had my daughter, where I started shifting a little bit. I started shifting to becoming more positive for myself. And one thing that really helped me, Deja, and I've shared with the listeners time and time again, is, would I speak to my daughter the way that I was speaking to myself? And when I knew I would never. And that's what kind of really helped start making things real and a real change occurring when I was able to see that. So,
And now I don't have that. I kind of eat what I want when I want it. I don't have the cloud hanging over me of, you know, how much more am I going to have to work out, or maybe I won't have M&Ms on my ice cream when I go out for ice cream with my daughter. It's a totally different way of thinking that I'm allowed to eat. It's like I'm a 35-year-old woman. I don't need to ask for permission.
yes.
Amen.
Yes. Yes.
I decide when I have cookies and
Yes.
how many I have.
Exactly.
Or if there's sprinkles or M&Ms, like, you are not a bad person, Deja. None of you, our
Right.
listeners out there, you guys are not bad people because you chose to have some whipped cream on your ice cream.
Yeah.
And really quickly, Deja, I thank you. I I want to give you an opportunity to talk directly to our listeners and just kind of give maybe them some encouragement for readers who are maybe feeling overwhelmed about leaving leaving the diets for body kindness, leaving some of that, taking steps to leave that negative self-talk. What type of encouragement would you offer them?
Oh boy. Well, the first thing for me would be your body is not bad. And I think that was something that I really had to come to terms with and realize that my body is not bad, that it's going to change, it's going to fluctuate, it's not going to stay the same all the time. And that's okay because that's what our bodies are supposed to do. Also, I think one of the biggest things for me is navigating diet talk, because I think it's really hard to it's everywhere. It's like once you realize that you're in diet culture or living diet culture, you can't unsee it. It's literally everywhere. And so when you do make the decision to leave diet culture behind, it's okay to not know how to navigate diet talk. And so, what I do personally is that when I hear it, just because I know that everybody's journeys are different, I usually just excuse myself because I know that maybe I'm not 100% at a place to be able to say, hey, here's this non diet, stuff that I'm doing. I excuse myself because I don't want to expose myself to that any longer. But just know that you can trust your body. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that I've gotten from body kindness. Body kindness was the gateway to intuitive eating for me. And so even though I'm still learning, just just know that you can trust your body. It's amazing when you realize that your body knows what you need and it will tell you. All you have to do is listen to it.
That's so
Amen.
beautiful.
Amen.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And it's going to help so many people. It really means the world. Thank you so much.
Wow, Rebecca, I just hearing our listeners call in just takes me back to where I was and just different steps on my journey. And it also helps me in a really good way to realize that I have more work to do. I really appreciated the way that Jessica in particular talked about how you can curate your social media. I know that I've been doing it just by, but I don't think I was as conscious as she was in doing it. I remember telling you, I'm not going to follow this person anymore because all they do is post about this, this, and this, and I just can't take it anymore. But to actually hear her say, like, cultivate it, just made sense and gave what I was already doing an actual name. So that was really awesome for me.
I mean, my insight from listening to them is just, like this stuff is hard. And it's like, and it's okay that it's hard. Like, we can do really hard things, But what I want people to understand is that there is a community, right? You feel alone. Brene Brown, in her book Braving the Wilderness,
Mhm.
she talks about how you need to be brave and go, like, be willing to leave groups and kind of go out on your own and do things for you, you know. But she talks about, like, it is a wilderness. You will feel like you're totally alone and isolated, which doesn't feel good, but you will soon find that you will see others who are braving too, and that's how you find your people. And I just think that's a perfect example of what we heard from the listeners, from curating your feeds to, just walking away from, like, the rules of exercise, and that no pain, no gain came across in both of the listeners in the show today.
Mhm.
That it will feel isolating and alone and different because it's not dominant. It's still dominant to say, all your worth is wrapped up in your appearance, and you suck at whatever it is you're trying to do for health unless you fit the ideal. And what we really need to start doing is questioning. We talked with both the listeners about how bodies are good and bodies change over time. I think that that's brilliant, and that's what we need to have more conversations around, is that let yourself take up space and let yourself evolve into body kindness and make personal meaningful choices, and that it's not that you're giving up on things that you care about. Like, well, I really like roasted tomatoes. Like, good. Just, you're allowed to like pasta too without guilt, And so it's like this idea of, it will feel hard, and you will have times when you feel alone. When Deja talked about needing to excuse herself from conversations that she just didn't want to partake in, that is hard, but you can do it, and it is worth it. And that's what I hope people get out of the show.
No, absolutely. And I'm over here, nodding my head in agreement because at the beginning, it definitely feels like you're alone, especially if you're the first one in your circle
Mhm.
to even consider, taking this on or doing this or stepping outside of what society says you should look like. Or, one of the reoccurring things that I heard was, I just finally said, I don't care what other people think.
Mhm.
And that took a long, 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 long time for me to come to accept that I just didn't care, because it wasn't doing my body any good. It was doing my body harm. Another reoccurring thing that I heard that I loved was, I trust my body now.
Mhm.
I can trust my body, or I'm starting to trust my body. That was something that I just jumped up and down, in my brain for joy for them, because I remember the first time that I allowed myself to trust myself.
Mhm.
That was very freeing. It was very emotional for me to know that I was worth trusting. As weird
Mhm.
as that sounds, I know I didn't trust myself before. When I allowed for that quiet time where before it would have been filled with negative self-talk, when I allowed for some quiet time to actually hear what my body was telling me, I was able to do things that nourished it in a way that
Mhm.
I wasn't doing before. And what I mean by that is, my body was saying, "Hey, let's move. It doesn't have to look a different." I mean, I'm telling you, there
Yeah.
was a time, and I shared with you before, where I stopped because I was exhausted mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Mhm.
And my body finally, when I allowed myself to listen to it, and
Mhm.
I pushed away the negative self-talk, my body said, "Hey, it's time to move."
Yeah. That just this morning, literally, it was the morning. And again, I'm getting up there in age, right? I'm still in the lower 40s. So I guess but anyway, but I just felt lower back soreness. And,
Yeah.
I just felt lower back soreness, and I haven't exercised in a couple days, which is typical. I usually take 2 to 3 rest days a week or whatnot, and various intensities. But, like, it wasn't like, oh, it's sore because I was moving a bunch of boxes, or, oh, it's sore because I had a really hard workout. Just morning, creaky back. And
Mhm.
and just to notice that, and to just kind of send my lower back some love and just say, like, let's take a deep breath and just a forward bend, and just that, just
Yes.
to notice that my body needed something and to just take that air in and just to exhale that. Like, I know that that helps you regulate, your emotions and just kind of start your day with some kindness and just, kind of hung over in a forward bend. And I could just feel that lower back release and,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of tiptoed my feet to just stretch my legs a little bit. And I had like a minute, but I think that that's the point, is that you can notice something and say, let me give my body something that it's saying it needs, you know.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to jump in because for me, that also extended into the way that I was feeding myself.
Mhm.
And again, because of my experience and how intense it was, I did have this mentality of good food, bad food, never touch this food. Oh my gosh, that's so super healthy. And I had never stopped to say, gosh, do I like the way this tastes? Do I like the way this smells? That's a beautiful plate of food. So when I was able to, along with movement, when I was able to just listen to my body and hear what it was that it was asking for, I found myself gravitating towards food that was maybe on that super healthy list. Not just everybody talks about, and it's okay, talks about how they allowed their body to have this food or that food, and maybe they'll go towards something fried or something baked because it's warm and comforting. My body at certain points, when I actually started listening to it, asked for everything, a
Mhm.
nice mixture, a great balance of what fed my soul and fed my body. And
Mhm.
that was really cool to actually see happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is all about experiences. You have to let yourself go through that experience. But yeah, I really hope that anyone listening is just let yourself celebrate what you feel is going well and working for you right now. And as you are opening yourself up to doing more and evolving with body kindness, just make space for it, allow discomfort to be there. And hopefully you're really learning a lot from hearing these listeners kind of share their own experience as well.
Absolutely. I just couldn't agree more. Rebecca, you said that this isn't easy. It's
Mhm.
hard. And I think that that's what helped me appreciate this whole process and journey more so. So for all our listeners out there, wherever you are in your journey, I applaud you, wish you continued success in discovering yourself, and wish you the very happiest of holidays.
Take care. And that's a wrap on today's show. Let's continue the conversation on Facebook. Just search Body Kindness Podcast and click to join. And if you can contribute to the production costs for the 2018 podcast season, visit gofundme.com/bodykindness. We love ratings and reviews. Please do that. And don't forget to let your friends know that Body Kindness is one of your can't miss podcasts. If you have questions, comments, or guest recommendations, shoot me an email, Rebecca@bodykindnessbook.com.